Hello and welcome to another episode of The Hurry Up. I'm your host, Andre Dixon, in my bunker, surviving the cold of outside. I'm not as brave as my dear friend here, Laurence McKenna,
Brave
from
guy.
the
That's
Kickoff. How are you, sir?
pretty good, actually. It's difficult. I made exactly the worst decision before we started doing this podcast. I started playing basketball with my son. He's just started watching the playoffs with me of the NFL, and he was basically like, he's got an American football and a basketball in this hand. And he's like, "We're going to do something," and I was like, "Nope, I'm leaving." And he was not ready for that.
Oh, no.
Terrible, but here I am. It's good though, because we get to we'll wake up every morning, we get to watch little NBA, little of the playoffs, and we'll just mix and match every day. And that's our first thing we do in the morning together. It's great.
Bro, I love that you love American sports as well,
It's
because
incredible.
obviously we have a shared love of
course.
two shared loves. We have our Liverpool.
Nice
Everyone
mug,
knows
actually.
I'm a thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
And everyone knows I love Liverpool, and everyone knows you're a Liverpool fan as well.
Mm.
But I would say that American sports, in general, the NBA and the NFL, actually takes a little bit of the sting off of when things aren't going our way.
Oh, absolutely. It also kind of gives you that perspective of like, oh, if I supported this team from a distance, or if I wasn't sort of involved in this way, or sometimes I think in England it's very easy every season to just get caught up in, you're the worst team, this is never going to end. In the NBA, NFL, it's like, oh, next season you'll be fine. And that's the way I've kind of taken on that mentality with Liverpool.
Yeah, I've literally been going in on these little rants of mine about how the league is formed, and because I obviously have to cover so much sports in America, where it's actually it's not, as I would say, I don't know if you'd agree, predictable
Absolutely.
as the Prem, for example. And what it does, and this is the problem I've got with NFL, is actually
Right.
drawn me in, where before it was like definitely 1B sport and NBA was 1C, but now
Yeah.
it's got to the point where it's actually I'm probably like, it's probably my favorite now, because
Especially considering this season, right?
well, the thing is that because
Insane.
some people would say, and I know those who said it to me know who it is,
Okay.
that I'm just salty because Liverpool aren't winning. It's not that,
Right,
bro.
right, right.
It's and see if you're with me on this.
I'll hear you out.
Is It's the fact that like if there's no spending limit in any formal way, then how are we? You can have the same teams winning every single season. It includes
Yeah.
us as well. You can have the same top four every season. So
Yes.
therefore, really, the battle isn't anymore. Battle for the championship between 3 or 4 teams. It's one
Absolutely.
team or maybe two, if at most, and it's usually been us at the moment, luckily. But it's always been just two
Yeah.
teams,
Yeah, I get
and
that.
then the others have been fighting for fourth place, and it's just like, I want something where everyone has the same cap.
Mhm.
Everyone has the same level of wage bills, and
Mhm.
then it's about coaching and bringing in new players, and making most of what you got. What do you think?
And you know what? I've always been in favor of that. I think, I've been an NBA fan, but this isn't just something I've picked up in recent years. I've been an NBA for almost like 20 years now, almost 25 actually. I mean, if you start back at Space Jam, that's NBA. But then if you go forward a little bit to I got to be a fan in the first, like, when the Pistons started to get pretty good. Are you talking about Ben Wallace, Sheed, those kind of guys? Sorry, there's like a massive construction going on behind me.
No,
It
don't worry.
literally is probably the
It'll add
worst
to
thing in
the
the world.
nice atmosphere. Don't worry
It
about
adds as long as you can't hear too much of it, you're fine. But
it.
the
No, we're
point of that
Londoners.
is,
Don't
like,
worry.
I think that America has this confidence that I think Britain and Europe doesn't have. And that's because a lot of people have always wanted to go to America. And so they always go, well, we must be the number one destination in the world, right? Like, we're the only people where people want to come here and stay forever. Whereas we're like, well, if we cap something, what if these guys want to go to Saudi Arabia? Or what if these guys want to go to, Dubai, where they get paid endless amounts of money? Or what if they want to go to China?
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of like, well, the NBA dealt with that. The NBA dealt extremely well with that. Like the fact that, Gilbert Arenas went off to China, or all these kind of things. We'll deal with it in the same way. And you know what?
Yeah.
If there's not one star, there's another star. And it doesn't work that, the best players in the world don't go to other areas because of culture, because of history, because of all these kind of things.
Yep.
And it happens over time. You know that, and from being an American football fan and being from an NBA fan, they put MLS in there, and it doesn't mean that MLS overnight is just going to go, right, we're the best league in the world all of a sudden.
Exactly.
It takes time to build culture and those kind of things. And I think we need to have more confidence in the Premier League culture. And at the moment, I actually don't think we have that. There isn't that much confidence in English football fans, or in football fans in general, because the people at the top don't actually look after us. and they don't seem to care that much about what goes on for the fans and whether it's actually best for us.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing that I've and you would know as well. It's just that obviously it's so exciting. If we say in particular the NBA season, obviously I'm an NBA fan. Actually, what's your team, by the way?
I'm a massive Spurs fan.
No, which is so. I want to know how that come about.
The reason I'm a San Antonio Spurs fan is I obviously anyone could be a Chicago Bulls fan.
Yeah.
Anyone could kind of be a Knicks fan, or anyone could be in any LA team, but probably the Lakers, right?
Yep.
And maybe a Miami Heat fan. But the reason I'm a Spurs fan is when I was getting into the NBA, I was talking to actual NBA fans, and they were like, you know what, you should support someone who's like Liverpool. And Liverpool had Rafa at the time. And I was like, okay, so who's kind of boring, but very methodical? And they were like, well, this is perfect, Greg Popovich. And I was like, okay, I'll take Greg Popovich. And then I got into it just as they were like popping off. And I basically had like a great 15 years. Even now, I'm happy, to be honest. If you got Pop, you're happy.
It's definitely a you do for UK, any fans of UK sport, you definitely find a team that aligns with your team, if anything. So yeah, definitely I can see that. I have to. I'm by force have to support the Heat because my family there. So
see, I don't judge that. It's also if you stick around with the Heat, it's the sticking around. It's those people who sort of go, yeah, I'm a Heat fan because D Wade and Shaq are there, or yeah, I'm a whatever. The Heat are one of my favorite teams right now. I love Jimmy Butler. Bam Adebayo was my like secret draft pick in my fantasy team a few years ago. Like, as a couple of dollars, I've never regretted spending. So it's amazing.
Oh, don't get me wrong. The bandwagon is there because I love Steph Curry. I like Steph Curry is like
not
since Kobe has been my favorite player. So
really, wow, that's incredible. Yeah, Kobe's also got a place close to my heart. I think you and I we're in a similar age bracket. We remember the NBA just being the Kobe era for a very long time. Even when Kobe wasn't winning things, it was still the Kobe era. So it's crazy to me. I still can't believe he's gone, to be honest.
So how did you? So you're a Giants fan, just like me. You are a long-suffering Giants fan. I've had to hide some of this stuff over the last few months.
Months? Years? You mean years? Yeah.
So you're a Giants fan. How did that come to be?
That's one of the few ones where I've actually picked based on location, and actually picked based on when I was a kid. I didn't want to be a Yankees fan. My friend was a Yankees fan, and I wanted a New York team. And I was like, do I go Jets? Do I go Giants? Mm-hmm. And then I went to New York and everyone was like, oh, don't go with the Giants, man. Giants. So I decided to go Giants. And I was like, I'll go against the grain.
I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry. Well, we've had some good times. Fortunately, again, I picked them up just before they got good. And then it sort of went into that era. And then now I'm like, I love Saquon. I got to chat to Saquon a few years ago and he was just... Oh, I'm so jealous that you get to meet the
one
players,
of those guys. I wish I got to meet more players. Saquon was he's got when you have someone who's got that demeanor of an all-star legendary player. Yeah. He's already got that, and I just wish that his health would sort of match up to that.
Yeah, exactly. I can hear a lot of Giants fans in my ear saying, "Oh, I wish you play like it and stay on the damn field." But let's right. So
when he does though.
Come on.
It's insane.
But you and I know you trading for Debo in 2 seconds. That's
Absolutely.
for damn sure.
Don't get me started.
Right, let's go into the firings. Obviously, last week there's a bunch of firings, some expected and some not. So if we go into order, John Gruden obviously resigned a little while ago.
That doesn't count as a firing. That just counts as a shaming.
That is true.
And I think a lot of people are trying to sort of go over that because Gruden's obviously got quite a lot of stature in the league, or had quite a lot of stature in the league. I think even before that, I don't think the Raiders were really going in the direction that they needed to be going in, and it was kind of inevitable to me that Gruden wouldn't be there in the end. I think they overcommitted to him, and ultimately. And I think Carr's been a much bigger influence on that team than Gruden has.
I love him.
I'm not going to put Gruden down for what he did on the field and the kind of culture that he's tried to put there. But there's plenty of things that I couldn't appreciate about that. So
yeah, I think Carr's like the shining example and leader of that franchise.
Just wish he shaved his hair.
You're not into long hair.
It's not that I'm not into long hair. It's like I'm not into long hair like that. And I can't tell whether it was like I won't shave my head until we win a Super Bowl or something, but I really hope.
Yeah, but he plays better with long hair. He's like Samson.
Yeah, I see that, but I don't know if his whole life is going better because of that. Like, it makes me feel like it's like, I don't know. It's not quite the look, and I feel like he wears eyeshadow with it. So, and again, I have nothing against eyeshadow.
Oh my God,
like that, but
is it me? I thought it looks like he does, but I don't think he does because I've seen him in person, and he's like really, really like obviously way taller than me. And so I couldn't really obviously get eye level to be able to see. And then Jordy Nelson walked past, so that was the end of that. I was just running over to Jordy Nelson. So I become fanboy. Like I have to try to behave myself in any form of way. That. So Urban Meyer went. Obviously, he should have went a long time ago, especially after Clubgate as well, because he didn't dance enough with that. But anyway, I won't get myself in trouble.
You don't even need to get into people's dance moves.
Vic Fangio, obviously that was expected. Mike Zimmer was a complete surprise as well.
When you say surprise, is it a surprise?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, it's only 2 years ago that he had a run,
and I was like,
like I know NFL's is not for long.
Pretty quick though, right?
When he was gone.
Yeah.
You know when he was gone when my brain's dead today. Wide receiver, forgot his name now. Justin Jefferson. When Justin Jefferson was complaining about the offensive calls.
Yeah, and I always feel like that's a problem, is once players start complaining about the calls, or once it's publicly known that the calls are, there's some sort of derision within that, I think you've got a real problem. And I think that they're a team who's always looking for things to be clicking, and it wasn't quite clicking for me, and that was the problem. And I think when you get to that stage, you basically go, okay, well, we need to move on here.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked, but in retrospect, you're not. But like, unless you've got someone to actually replace someone like him, because it's not like he was doing that bad. Like, trust me, you and I know bad.
I get that, and I know bad, but I'd almost rather know 100% bad or 100% good. I don't often and I almost feel like this like purgatory that some teams leave themselves in is worse than being really bad or really good, because you don't really don't feel like man. Yeah, exactly. That's my issue with it. It's not to the degree that I think the Vikings they've got potential to be so much more than that, and that's
Right, let's the Bears Matt Nagy. Sorry, that was not that was not a surprise in any form of way.
Absolutely.
That was just a matter of time. You must have been looking during the game to see. Is it time yet? Is he calling me?
Am I sacked yet? No, okay, I'm not sacked. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Listen, I'm going to make a bad call here, and we'll see what happens.
Do I go? Do I go now?
I'm sorry about that.
This is the one. I'll get into the major two in a second. But David Culley, weird, one year lease. But he got. I keep saying to people that he got 22 million to be a coach for 1 year, and hey, hire me for that. Now you can fire me publicly. It's fine with me. Like
that was my main issue.
For 22 million, you could do the Game of Thrones shame.
Right, I get that. that was partly when I was looking at it, but it was also, again, it's another one of those teams where you just feel like there was an element of purgatory there, where it's not quite going where you want it to. There are also other sides that have pulled up in the way that you haven't, and I don't know. I feel like, again, there's another thing where you're like, we're just on the edge of this. You're not going to be able to push us over it.
There was an exciting team at one point, but
exactly, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, it feels like you're on the edge of that, and there's everyone. And again, it's another one of those teams. It's a bit like the Vikings, a bit like the Texans. You constantly just go, "Oh, there's something exciting going on here." Oh, yeah, you don't. Your coach can't quite bring everything together. There's not that culture that needs to be created at a side in order to get them into the playoffs. Pittsburgh this year, these guys deserve sacking if they don't make it ahead of Pittsburgh. That's what I'm going to shout.
Right, we're going to go to the two that actually make our blood boil. But before we get to our team, Brian Flores.
Yeah.
Complete shock last Monday. That was the weirdest thing. What's your take?
You know what? I think this kind of leaves them in a space where I felt like the players were beginning not to there was doubt that had crept in, shall I say, before that. Yeah. Before he went. And I think even when you win a team back around or stuff starts to tick up, there's a couple of times where you go, okay, fundamentally, there are problems here with what's going on with the team. And if you've got someone else who's ready to step in, also, if you've got a team that sort of feels, again, like it's on the cusp of something, then I think Brian Flores is kind of going to go somewhere else and prove it. But I just don't think it's Miami is not the place.
I think that they jumped the gun, and I'm surprised as well because the GM chose himself to be important over the actual team franchise, because he's been there, I think, around about 16 years, and nothing really good has happened. Bad trades. Mika Fitzpatrick, to name one.
Also, I mean, drafting. So the drafting of Tua was an interesting one as well.
What's your take on that?
I was heavy in on Tua. Like, I wanted that to work. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes, again, you write some people off because of the fit that they have with that team. Mm-hmm. And when I saw them in London, I was a bit like, oh, this Miami side isn't as bad as I thought it was.
Yeah.
Actually, they were way better than I thought they were going to be. And I think they were putting on a bit of a show. But my take on Tua is, again, I think it comes down to the fit and the tooling. And again, to some extent, you kind of need to give people time to bed in. And if you won't have that where he was going. And that's part of the problem. I think the impact was expected to be instant because of the reputation that came with him. Yeah. And sometimes you can't make that impact. Not everyone can be as lucky as Mac Jones to have someone who's able to manage that in the way that it needs to be managed.
There's been, I think, a ridiculous amount of pressure put on him. I went to Miami just recently, and I saw him play against Cam and the Panthers, and the guy was surgical. Now, you ain't getting he is capable of a long throw. He has got a good arm, contrary to belief. But he was more surgical, and he led them to 7 wins in a row.
Was it also like a lot of short throws in that time though, and a lot of when you say surgical, sometimes with surgical, I at the moment I think there needs to be and I think always there needs to be a dynamism to your quarterback that he hasn't shown yet. And I agree with that surgical nature of him. I see exactly what you mean, and there's kind of even his movement is quite sort of clean. There's a great technique to that. But it doesn't work because you need a dynamism in order to get further than that. And all the guys who are currently there are extremely dynamic.
And let's get to what we have been avoiding all this time, talking about Joe Judge. The firing that didn't seem like it was going to happen, but then public pressure came in. Giants fans were definitely leaning on that. And this is the first firing that has happened. And I'm not going to rag on a person because they're still a human being in the end of the day. But this is the first firing that I've ever seen that it's pretty much 100% of the fan base is pretty much agreeing with it. I haven't seen any people say, oh, you should have given him more time or anything. So what is your take on that?
Things needed to move on. There's an element of feeling that things are a little bit stale, and also that some bad decisions have been made in terms of how we've tried to progress as a team. Mm-hmm. What's happened with Saquon Barkley has not helped any coach that's going to be there. And I think that's the problem is if you're constantly thinking, well, there's going to be a point in our season where we're basically going to get a legendary player, or we're going to get someone who's on another level, or maybe we're not going to get that guy. How are you then going to build that team? How are you meant to tool up within that period, not knowing exactly how it's going to go? And then also having that nervousness of, if he does come back, what then? And then obviously, do I even need to talk about our quarterback? Why would you? I don't get why you. It's confusing.
Getterman is the problem. And I'm just sorry to cut you. I'll let you land.
No, please.
Getterman is the problem. Getterman more than Joe Judge. Like Joe Judge, all right, he's fired because he did weird play calls with 2 quarterback sneaks in our own zone right next to our touchdown zone, and then the weird.
I don't mind those though. That's what I'm saying. I don't mind that.
Oh no, that was that was comical.
That's where I'm like, look, I get what you're trying to do here. It feels like an element of desperation where you're trying to make your name, or you're trying to be like, oh, that genius on that day that did this very cool thing, and everyone goes, oh, maybe this guy does know what he's doing, sort of thing. But that's where I felt the team was at that time. That's such a desperate move to do that. It's not something that's going to be. It's not something that's ever going to go well unless your team is full of confidence, all those kind of things. That's what's so disappointing about that.
I think because he walks around with this like Timmy tough guy type of thing, with the chest out and the whole bravado. Some of them, the interviews that were really, really embarrassing when he's like calling out and ragging on, like for example when he called out on the Washington football team. I almost got the name wrong again, but thankfully I've saved that.
We've all been there. Don't worry about it.
And then so you're talking bad about them, and they hand you your ass. Like, that's something that you can't recover from. So. For that,
also considering how bad they are, by the way.
They're bad, and we're worse. Yeah. We can't. The fact that we can't say anything about any team at all. I can't even think. Maybe the Jags, we can have an argument with them, and I never thought we'd fall so low.
Honestly, we can't even argue with the Jags.
We can't even look at the Jags.
At least it feels like there's a future with the Jags. I mean, I know there's a future with the Giants, but at least it feels like there's something there where at least those guys are proud of what they're trying to do, and they've sort of made an identity out of it. We're just like, what is going on here? Like, it doesn't work. And you can. The worst thing is as well, I think, if you've ever been to Giants Stadium, then you know what it's like to be for that team to be losing in that situation and that humiliating. New York just does not accept that in the first place, and I think that's the problem. There is that is going to put you under such extreme pressure, and also any personality that wants to try and stand out in New York and not be like a Saquon or someone like that, where there's an element of being humble, there's an element of understanding what the task is, those kind of things. He didn't ever seem to do that for me, and that's what's so frustrating about it. And now Brian Flores is, I think yesterday Brian Flores was kind of rumored to be on the shortlist for coaches. I'm a bit like, not against it.
You know what? I'm going to put it to you. Do you right? We for the first time, we're going to be going through the process of hiring from outside, not just promoting from inside.
Not promoting from within, yeah.
Yeah, a GM and then head coach. What I do worry about, I'll let you have your say.
No, go for it. I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
What I worry about is that this process, so some media said, okay, well, what you need to do is do this thing properly. Mm-hmm. As long as it takes is as long as it takes. Don't feel that you have to rush things. However,
I get what you mean. I get what you're going with.
You need to get Flores. Like, if there's, find a person that they doesn't give him full reign, because we don't want to ever, be in that position where someone's got almighty power. We gave that to Getterman, and look where we are now.
Didn't work.
But you don't want to miss out on someone like him, because what that will do is, for and I'm sure you would agree, is that the optimism that would actually come for the next season, we would actually be excited. The draft will be better. You'll be able to get some better free agents. Well, to be honest with you, we need to move some people on because our cap space is Getterman
that's
again.
A problem. Yeah, that's a real problem.
But at the very least, you know that the actual performances are going to be better, and the whole process of having another losing season, because we're not going to do any better. But we may do, because the defense is decent. But what's your take? Do you think that Flores should be the one? Obviously, we have no power, but what do you think?
I think there was an element of feeling like we needed to make the moment count because of what we'd done in terms of people like Saquon, and then obviously you've got that pressure that comes with that. Mm-hmm. You see Odell Beckham Jr. leave, because there's not the prospect of something going on there. But he didn't leave because the market wasn't there. He didn't leave because the attention wasn't there. And let's be honest, ever since he's left, there hasn't been that same media attention on him because he's not been able to attract that. You can't attract that in Cleveland. I think you've got to be able to do more for the Rams. And, I'm happy what he's doing for the Rams. But that put a bit of a pressure on the Giants at that point, where they basically went, people aren't always going to stick around to retool here, and it's going to be tricky for us to make up what's been lost.
Yeah.
And so there was an element of time where it felt like, time is ticking. I think we need, like you say, we need to do the opposite of that. We need to just be like, look, there's a rebuilding process that goes on here. We've trusted it with the Knicks. We trusted it with plenty of other New York franchises. Maybe even Nets, if you want to throw them in there now. We're going to have to trust it with the Giants and see where that goes.
With this whole process, I'm really hoping that they move quick, and that, there's a rumor there's going to be two people, assistant GM and another maybe I think is the offensive coordinator for the Bills. If I'm wrong,
which would be incredible, by the way, if they did that. Which would be great. I mean,
they've done with Josh Allen's ridiculous.
I get that, but that's also is that Josh Allen? Because or is that what they've done? And is how much of that is that 60-40, 50-50, 70-30? How good a talent do we have here to be able to get that offense actually moving?
Well, it ain't Danny Dimes, that's for sure. Like we would shoot, and I think, Loz, tell me if I'm wrong. I swear it was in the same draft that Josh Allen went to Buffalo, and then we got Danny.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was actually. Yeah, it didn't. The worst thing about that is, I think that there's like an element of, oh, we actually did do the right thing there. It's just it hasn't quite worked out yet, sort of thing. And I'm a bit
You're not a fan.
No.
You don't believe? All right, we're gonna get to that later.
I don't believe.
I don't see how you don't. He showed you. He's amazing. All right, we're gonna get to this. We'll get to this.
Fair enough.
But one thing I have to do is a public apology to Odell Beckham Jr. Because because I have been angry at him for the last few years since he's been at the Browns, and it wasn't his fault. He got traded by a buffoon. And it's only because, obviously, some of the attention-seeking stuff that he did, with the giving Tom Brady the cleats, the goat cleats and things like that in front of Baker, which is funny because you see that picture, the meme where you can see him looking on like, what are you doing? But I was angry because of the whole situation, because it was a stupid move from both sides, and it's just like, because he caused that by some of the stupid press conferences he had with Lil Wayne, ragging on Eli and things like that. So I think that was where I was. But yesterday, my God, like it showed that I would say, obviously we're going to the games now. The Rams absolutely handed the Cardinals their arse. And it seemed like the Odell game. Like, what was your take on the Rams, demolishing the Cardinals?
You know what? I think there's always that element with Sean McVay where things sort of click every now and again. And when they do click, then the team sort of go, whoa, what have we got here? Yeah. They were extremely aggressive. They played it just right. Obviously, he read their offense perfectly. And there were so many times where you're just like, okay, you've been as surgical as you need to be here, which is exactly what we expect from him as well. And he's managed to motivate his guys to basically, it was almost a perfect execution from them throughout the game of what they needed to do. And not only that, but against a team where you would have thought they're thinking, okay, well, maybe there's something we can do here. It's not, I thought the Rams were the favorite personally. But I also think then when you bring in an Odell Beckham Jr., we bring in these finishing pieces, these finishing touches, it begins to come together and you start to go, oh, good, we don't have to worry about our running so much anymore. We don't have to, it takes the pressure off other elements of the team because you've got this superstar aspect that only really seemed to have been in the line before that. And there was no one out there that we could sort of go, oh, yeah, look at this guy, look at this guy. Now you've got that focal point. I think that's so important for some teams.
He seems like he's actually got his confidence back, because I think that was going
he's
away
very
from him when he was
at
the Browns. And obviously he threw a touchdown yesterday as well, which is like, again, another ridiculous feat. And then
he loves that kind of thing though, doesn't he?
He seems like it, but I think he seems in this particular team, which is weird because he's in La La Land, which is everything he normally you would think that he would want to be around. He seems very much more focused, more quiet. I haven't heard anything from him outside the field. Whereas before it was like too much, if anything,
I think it's their culture as well, though. Like he to some extent, I think he's not a leader. He's not the kind of guy who's going to go out there and lead the rest of the team. He is someone who needs to be bridled and led a little bit because there is so much energy there. There is so much that he wants to do. He's incredibly distractible by the glitz and the glamour of things. Like you said, everything that was going on with the press conferences, all that sort of stuff. If you then have a culture that you come in and it's about dedication, it's about the excellence of what you're doing. I've got number 99 about that, all these kind of things. It makes a massive difference to the way that he's going to perform. And to some extent, it takes the pressure off him because he's like, oh, I can be a bit more relaxed. I don't have to be this intensity that I needed to be before to get the Giants to where they needed to be. There was a lot of pressure on him in Cleveland to get them to a certain level. And let's face it, a lot of the pressure was for him to make Baker look good.
Yeah.
And, when you have a quarterback that you feel you have to make look good, that's not the kind of pressure you want as a receiver.
It is true, honestly. I that's why I had to make my public apology. We are at peace now. Have you ever had an argument with someone that didn't even know you're arguing with them?
Didn't even met. Yeah, I think the person I've had the longest argument with in my whole is probably Roy Hodgson when he was at Liverpool. Like, I never made a public apology, and I'm never going to make a public apology.
We're not supposed to go into this.
Shouldn't have happened. Roy, this just shouldn't have happened. You're just not meant to be here, are you? And now you're buying Konchesky, and no one understands it. It didn't make any sense. Nothing made any sense at that time. I still don't give him. I still.
You know what? Actually, you know what? I will say this. I'll say this. I'm going to give him credit for one thing. If it wasn't for him taking over, and to a point where, you know, when your team is losing so badly that you just can't even watch, you have to listen on the radio. As soon as the goal goes in, you're just like, I'm not watching. That's it. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be into NFL as much as I was, because that season, it gave me all the time in the world to be able to learn all the players, rules, everything. So salute to you, Roy, for we wouldn't be sitting here if he didn't take over.
NFL UK owe you a lot, Roy. If anything, Roy, I'd say you're one of the biggest influences that ever worked with. You pushed so many people away from the Premier League that we thought, wow, we're going to have to pick up not even another team, a whole other sport. You made me go, I don't need to watch people kicking it that much. I like it when they do it with their hands. So I don't know. I feel like Roy could make a lot of money if he just moved to the States.
It's like if you're in the stadium, you're just like, so someone's like, look, could you just watch my seat? I'll be back.
Genuinely,
not anytime soon.
I've got that 4G. I'm just watching NFL Sunday.
All right, so let's go to the other results. I'll whiz through them. So the Chiefs absolutely battered the Steelers. Obviously, that was to be expected.
We expected that. I think it's good to, it's almost. I know it's a strange thing to say. I kind of feel like Big Ben was going, and I don't really want to call him Big Ben. It's just Ben now. I kind of feel like Ben was basically just going, maybe if we weren't to make it to the playoffs, but I'd have done a valiant effort, that would be good. So maybe if the results could go the other way, so he could have finished and been like, but we were so close.
Do you think he wanted to finish on that last game rather than this?
Yes, absolutely. And he's looking at the results going, please go the right way. Please go the right way. And it didn't. Because also, not only that, but it's the contrast of those two QBs as well.
Mm-hmm.
You got the super squeaky clean guy who everyone sort of wants to talk to. He's in all the ads, all those kind of things. Baker Mayfield's given up a lot of space, so there's a lot of ads fulfilling. And now, we're in this position where he's going to be the face of the NFL for however long. I don't think Ben ever quite made it to that point. Even when he was doing things that were successful, I think a lot of people begrudge what happened off the field, and that was, a lot of people, I'd say, are kind of, especially a lot of commentators, are happy to see the back of him because they don't have to comment on someone who they always felt a little bit conflicted about.
Yeah. Anytime there's a little bit of a lewd past, then
and that's being generous.
It's
generous,
just, people can look up what he did.
Look it up, and it's one of those things where I try my best to separate mentally what happens off the field and what happens on the field. But I think the important aspect for me is that even then, Ben probably got a little longer than he needed to be afforded, and it's partly good that the Steelers weren't in a position to move them on because put the guy out to pasture at this point.
And then, so the Buccaneers as well. This is a light work for them.
Very light, extremely light.
Again, you and I are quite glad about that actual result as well.
Right, I'm not a massive fan of the Eagles, not a massive fan of the Eagles fans either, but I do like Philadelphia.
I do. I haven't been. I do. I have lots of friends, especially in my fantasy football league, who are from Philly. But I'm glad that you got beat down. I need to go. Genuinely.
Yeah, what a city, man! Like, what an incredible place. That's kind of what's bizarre about it is Philadelphia is such an incredible sports city and such just an incredible culture in the first place. And then your fans can just suck so much. It's just crazy.
Well, let's go on to the Bills. You know what is weird this weekend? That there's so many teams that have just it's not just winning.
Home wins, easy home wins.
Beat downs everywhere.
There's nothing strange about this. Look at every one of these results apart from the Dallas result, and I'd imagine that it went the way that you expected it to go. I honestly expected Dallas to get one over on San Francisco. And I think ultimately, if they'd have played it correctly, they probably could have. But apart from that, everything went the way it was meant to. So actually, there is no surprise this weekend.
Well, the Bills gave the Patriots, I think, their worst defeat ever under Belichick. So, and then I'm going to get before we go to the Cowboys game, I'm going to touch on this Josh Allen thing because you and I disagree on this. We agree on 95% of things. This year, we don't. Why do you not believe in number 17?
Sorry, I thought when you were saying that, I thought that you meant our quarterback at the Giants.
No, we are not talking about him.
Right,
he does not deserve.
Okay, right. That's why I was disagreeing with you. Oh no, actually, yeah, I have a lot of belief in Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is it's the complete opposite of that. I think Josh Allen, he always got underestimated. I think he's always been overlooked to some extent because of where he is. Yeah. And I also think he's been, to be honest, I think we patronize teams like the Bills sometimes. Because of the position they find themselves in, they're not this kind of super marketable side. Sometimes they get completely overlooked, and they're not that kind of sexy team that everyone wants to go and see. And they've kind of made themselves that now. And I think they've kind of come out of nowhere with that. Because a lot of people overlooked them for a while because it was like, oh, Bills, what does that even mean? Like, and now look where they are. He's a
serious contender, definitely.
There is a case for saying.
Mm-hmm.
There is a case for saying that he actually had the best quarterback performance of that round.
Yeah.
And that he could also still be possibly not the best in terms of all time, but the best at the moment within the league.
You think so? You do
I'm
remember
not
that?
not a massive Packers fan.
You do? Oh, I was thinking, wait a minute. I was thinking there. I was just like, I was going to tap your shirt here and be like, excuse me.
Yeah, even then, I'm not a massive.
Aaron Rodgers is going to be like, hold my beer this weekend. Well, actually,
that's part of my problem. I predict the Packers.
That's what you're sticking to your prediction. Oh, we forgot one last. Sorry, before we get into the Rams and Cowboys, the Bengals and Raiders had a fight. Do you think that touchdown should have counted because the whistle went off? For those of you who haven't watched it, the whistle went off as Joe Burrow was throwing the ball. For a touchdown. He caught the ball just before he caught the ball. The whistle went off, so some of the players are kind of just chilled.
You can see he stopped. There's I can't remember which player it is, but they're basically standing there for that reason. So I can't see how that would count. Although whether they could influence the play and whether it worked out that way anyway, that's the problem. Is it has to happen, and it has to happen for real. So you can't. It shouldn't have counted.
So let's talk about this. The Cowboys and the 49ers. Now, I'm gathering that did you go for the Cowboys to win?
I went for Dallas in this one. I'm big into Dak. I was a little bit worried when I saw Parsons. The problem with Parsons and COVID, and then early on in the game he wasn't in. And also I was very worried when I was looking at when I was looking at Garoppolo. Garoppolo seemed to be in the zone. Garoppolo seemed to be in a place that Dak just wasn't at that point. Balls were going all over the place. Dallas were really messing up. There were a lot of third downs where I was like, surely something's going to happen here. Just weren't getting to that point, having to punt quite a lot. It was very disappointing to me because I actually think Dak and the Cowboys had an element of belief this season on how far they could go. And I think if they'd have gotten past San Francisco, you begin to believe, you begin to think, okay, we can beat a couple of sides here. They just never got going in that game until way too late.
I just knew. I'm being honest. Like I've been in our little show. I've been talking about the 49ers when they get actually fit and healthy and get everyone back. Then people should be looking out for them. And then obviously we've got Hannah, Wilkes, who's a Rams supporter, and the other guy, Sam, who's a Cardinal supporter. Shout out to the Rams for beating the Cardinals again. I feel that they were like quite dismissive of this team. And I feel that with the 49ers, because they are full of trick plays, they are full of
ingenuity, dynamism.
Yeah, it's something I haven't seen before. Like I've never seen so much diversions. If I can say with one word, how I can describe
I get that, and you could see that against Dallas as well. I think,
yeah. You never seen I've never seen a team like just have a wide receiver just running all the time. I've never seen they've got stout players. They got Ayuk. They got obviously Elijah Mitchell. Obviously I got Debo, and then they didn't even need to use Kittle that much. Like. That's
what I actually thought was I expected, and Kittle sort of played that kind of complementary role to a lot of those players. A lot of the times he was letting those routes. Yeah. He was opening up routes for other runners or whatever. That was what was so fascinating about that.
Only person who can mess him up is Jimmy G. That's the only person. And I don't rate him. And he did his best. Like it's I forget about like this controversy about the last minute mess up with they shouldn't have been in that position anyway. Literally,
exactly.
With that QB sneak, if again it's Jimmy G messing up. If he had given his actual offensive lineman, time to be able to just get settled, there wouldn't be no conversation about it. So the only weakness in that team is their quarterback. Mm-hmm. Not that he's bad, it's just that he makes bad decisions. And
there are a lot of
this is the last time.
He's trying to be he's trying to be dynamic. I think he's trying to be the quarterback that I think he thinks is in there. We know is in there somewhere, and we know at some point that's been not only identified by San Francisco but also by Bill Belichick. So, I can't begrudge him thinking he's good. A lot of people in the league think he's good. There's times where it's not about just having the ability. It's sort of like you say, it's about having that decision making. And that was part of the problem again for Dallas was the decision. It wasn't so much the decision making as the execution. And then when they were executing it, they decided on the wrong execution a couple of times. And they were right on the edge of something. And that's what really annoyed me. And I think the first quarter set them back because I think they went up like 10-0 at the end of the first quarter, something like that, right?
Yeah.
They're up 10-0 in the first quarter. And, Dak also on the broadcast, they were saying Dak's a bit of a geek for this kind of thing. He looks back at old results. He remembers this because, of course, he was a Dallas fan as a kid. And he'll have known that wasn't a great position for them to come back from, and they'll have known they needed to get going. I think that put a lot of pressure on them in that game, and ultimately, I think it told. And they'll be disappointed because not only did they have Hard Knocks on them this season, which sort of set them up in a lovely way, but they had a lot of things going for them, and I was really enjoying the play as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not glad that they sorry to my Cowboys friends. But I'm glad that they went out because I think it would just been unbearable if they'd have beaten them. And that was my what we call lock of the week, where actually that is a guaranteed result. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the divisional rounds, and I'm going to get you to pick.
Wait, this
is going to be the clip. Now, this is going to be the clip that's going to be seen forevermore to all NFL fans who are going to be betting this weekend.
Let me make sure that I don't go against what I predicted in the first place. I just want to make sure. Yeah, okay.
Loz, you have the freedom to change your results based on the information that you have. So you're fine to do that.
I knew what was going to happen. I know who's winning the Super Bowl in the end anyway. So it doesn't matter.
Right. So let's go through it. So we got the Titans Bengals. Who have you got for that?
I love the dynamism, and I've used that word a lot on this podcast. But I also just love. I love what the Bengals have become for this league, and the kind of plucky underdog that can, or the plucky under tiger that can. But ultimately, you're going to go for the Titans in that one, aren't you? There's a reason why they weren't playing in this round, and they've just been able to come in at this point. And it's a strange one because I think a lot of people went, they sort of got given it because of these results, that result. They shouldn't have been coming in at this point. They should have actually been competing before. Ultimately, they did earn it because of what they did, and there's a reason why they got that first round off.
I think I'm going to go with being honest, with momentum with the Bengals.
Really?
I think they got it. I think they got it. There's some, this is just my snobbery.
Okay.
Because the Titans aren't an exciting team. Oh, hit my mic. Yeah. They're not an exciting team to be able to watch. They don't. Okay. They're not a flair mm-hmm. team. Like obviously the 49ers, you're like excited to be able to see them. You're like, what are you going to do next? Same thing with the Packers, even Bucks and Rams. You're just like, whoa, what are you going to do? They're the only team that I'm like, you're just going to run the ball. So that's all you're going to do. And no plays, you're just running.
And I get that. And so you'd have thought that made them incredibly easy to stop, right? But then on top of that, I think when you get to the playoffs, what fans' expectations are counts for a lot. And if you're expecting your team to not be all that exciting, it's kind of a good thing. Because the stadium doesn't sort of go, oh, we're not really on it today. This isn't going to work in this way. Or, it's not as exciting as it usually is. Mm-hmm. You can just go through the motion, go through the gears and, sort of work your way up. I think there's an element of excitement that people want around the Bengals. I think if that doesn't appear, people get a little bit nervous. And I think that's a big prediction from you, to be honest.
Honestly, I'm putting it out there. Right, let's...
Equivalent of Dallas versus San Francisco going through there. This is your equivalent. I hope everything else you're going to make a reasonable prediction.
Not going to go right out there. Right, let's go with the Bucks and Rams. Who have you got for that?
Rams. If you want to go momentum with this one, then I'm going to go Rams. I feel like there's a bit of an upset here because obviously There's also, tell me this, right? I'm interested to know what your perspective is. There's a whole load of these videos that people make with Tom Brady because they know they're going to get millions of views and millions of clicks. It's like, it's our time, we've worked all season for this. Yeah, we all have, Tom. Like, this isn't just you that's been working hard all season. We've all done that. Every team is here because they've worked hard. It's not just you that's worked hard and everyone's been given this. And I get it. Like, you drink your peppermint tea and, you take your vitamins or whatever it is that your wife gets. But it's important at this point to remember someone at some point has to beat Tom Brady.
Loz, you can't pick him because you can't pick the Rams because I've seen where you're going with this. You cannot pick the Rams because you don't like Tom Brady.
Why? No, it's nothing to do with not liking Tom Brady. It's to do with the fact that I like the Rams more. And I like the way that Sean McVay sort of adjusts everything on himself when he gets a play right. He's like, oh, there's a little bit of something going on here. Let me adjust the headset. Let me adjust my pants a little bit. Let me just adjust the.
I don't like him running into the end zone all the time, being Coach Clapp. I don't like that.
It feels a bit Jose, but because he's nicer than Jose and much more reasonable, there's sort of an element there of being like, oh, he's a man of the people kind of thing. And when you hear him talk on podcasts, when you hear him talk in real life, he's the kind of guy you would want to just pick up a cause with and be like, hey man, good game. Like,
yeah,
I want them to win for that reason. And also, I just love the Rams. I love their jerseys. I love their culture. I love everything that they sort of stand for, apart from their ownership.
I don't know with this one.
Say it.
I think it's Rams. I'm hoping the Rams. I really am hoping the Rams because I can't. I just can't see how.
Can I just ask? So that's what I was going to ask you, Ryan. Sorry, I keep cutting you off. You're the host.
No, bro, go.
Let me ask you the question then. Why is it that we can't see Tom Brady breaking down this Rams team? Is it because of who they've got in their defensive line?
Well, I think it's the defensive line is they're going to be coming at him. You've got three people coming at you. Yeah. The best defensive lineman in the NFL, defensive player in the NFL, coming at you. I don't know if you're going to have that. You're definitely not going to have the time to be able to throw the ball. So if that's the plan to throw. That's why they beat you the last time, and they do it again. I think if they establish the run, then the Rams may have problems. So I don't know because you haven't got Godwin, and you obviously for other reasons you haven't got Antonio Brown. So therefore, you've got double coverage. I mean, they got a defense, man. Like, come on, they got Jalen Ramsey. They got there's too many reasons why the Rams logically will win. But again, Brady is that person that has luck on his side.
Yeah.
I'm there with you where I'm tired of his ass and I just want him to lose. So mine's got no form of logic as well.
I appreciate your logic.
Right, let's go.
Having said that, we're going to be made completely wrong.
Oh God,
we're going to go through it at this point.
We're going to get embarrassed if this happens again.
It's the biggest challenge for Tom.
Those Bucks fans are already in my DMs already. Don't worry, they think I hate him, as well as the Browns fans because I actually don't like you guys. But I'm joking.
That's not me. Cleveland's a lovely place.
Me and Laurence ready to go. Right, right. The Packers 49ers. Mm-hmm. Let's see what you got with this one.
Packers are just going to overpower them. I think it's an exciting one. Packers going all the way for me, no matter who they come up against. I think there is a slight element of you doubted me, now watch me. And there's been a lot of question marks over that guy's head all season. Would he rather be a game show? Would he rather be a game show? Yeah, would he rather be a game show host or would he rather be a quarterback? Would he rather be in adverts or would he rather be a quarterback? Would he rather be giving interviews in magazines or would he rather be a quarterback? All these questions have been asked all season. I think we've kind of annoyed him to a degree now where he goes, okay, watch. And this whole team seems to be just able. Maybe you're right. Maybe there's an element of momentum here. And maybe I'm not factoring that in where, they've just had that to just chill. But maybe it's also they've had plenty of time to sit back, analyze, rest themselves. There's plenty, it goes both ways. So I'm going to go Packers. What about you?
Almost wish the feed froze there for a second because I am torn because I've been ranting and raving about the 49ers all this time and they actually proved me right. So all right, it's like when we beat Man United, handed them their arse in their own ground. Mm-hmm. And we've been saying, when you've been speaking beforehand, you're like, I think we'll win 3-0 or something like that. And people are like, how could you say that? You know what I mean?
I get that.
There's an element of that pride that you have because you've got it right and you've seen this team blossom. But I do love the Packers. And are we
going lock for lock here? Are you going with your lock and I'm going against?
I think I'm gonna go. All right, let's do it. I'm gonna go with the lock.
This is you and I going to Paris together and putting our love locks on the bridge. and I'm going, I love the Packers, and you're going, I love San Francisco. And then we're both just going in there, and one of us ultimately is going to see it fall in the river.
Ash, who's Ash from the NFL, please forgive me, but I'm gonna have to lock on the 49ers, causing the upset. Me and Lawrence are going, against each other on this one for this week.
I'll be tweeting you about that. I'll be tweeting you. I'll be texting you. I'll be all over that. You made a couple of predictions which just go against everything that I predicted.
Just shocked me.
So the fact that you gone with the Bengals, the fact that you gone with San Francisco, you know what? If anything, I respect it. I didn't expect anything else from Dre. So,
and the last one, which I was going to use my lock on. Mm-hmm. This might surprise you as well. Chiefs and Bills. Who you got?
This is the most exciting of the two quarterbacks in terms of, the young guy who's going to take the mantle. I've got a friend who's a massive KC fan, and we were talking about this because I was like, "Oh, KC go all the way, right?" And he was like, "I look at every round and I go, yeah, but if they do this, if they do this, if they do that." But then you go, "Yeah, but what about Pat?" And at every stage, it's always with him, isn't it? So I'm going to go with him. I feel like I'm going to go with the Chiefs. It's going against what I actually think is going to happen, but for some weird reason, I've just got it here that the Chiefs are going to do something. You can go with him.
I'm going with you, Josh. I just judged on the performance I saw against the Patriots. Now, Patriots ain't all of that. They've been good all season, but they did handle them. And I think the weather's not
ain't all that though
an issue. I think that the weather's not going to be an issue because look where they live against the Chiefs. So I do feel with the running game as well, it's going to be a close game, but I think the Bills will pull off a shock.
You know what it is as well? I think there's also an element of sometimes KC start quite slow.
Yeah,
I think it was 0-0 in the first quarter against the Steelers. Now, obviously against the Steelers, it's much easier to keep your belief than it is against the Bills. If the Bills pull away, you've got a bit of a problem. But I still think that this KC team, because of what they've been through this season, they basically go, it's not working. But it'll click at some point. It's not working. But it'll click at some point. And in the end, it does.
Yeah, you ain't got that type of time against the Bills.
That's not the problem.
These guys are going to be coming for you, and then the momentum is there. Because what is that? You having a week off is a blessing and a curse as well. Because sometimes a little bit of rust comes in, and it might be too late for you to actually come back. So that's what I'm thinking.
Okay, I understand it. I also think there's just so many weapons out there. I think for both teams, that's it makes it unpredictable who's going to have a good game. Who's actually going to turn up. And I'm just a massive fan of the speed and the legs that KC have got. They're just so exciting to watch in a way that I don't think they rely on Josh Allen. And Josh Allen is relied on in a different way to the way that they are currently relying on Pat at KC. I think that's part of it as well. This season, they've kind of learned that there is a bit more to this team than just the Patrick Mahomes show.
But what a game and what a weekend! But it also makes me sad because we're getting a bit closer to the end, and then we're just going to be stuck. We're gonna have like two sports. I'm trying to get into hockey and other sports so I can take the.
Hockey is incredible, by the way. Yeah,
I need to do that because NBA is exciting, but that also gets my blood boiling sometimes because
I get that.
I do love the Warriors, and I do want them to win again, and I do love Steph Curry. But
if you're trying to get into,
go on.
If you're trying to get into hockey, play it on not in real life. It's deadly. Play it on like a PlayStation or an Xbox or something. It's one of the most addictive games that you will ever play. Yeah, bro, it's so good to play. Like, it's one of the best games on Xbox and PlayStation, and it's also one of the games you can just pick up. You can sort of understand how the puck moves and that sort of thing. I don't think it's as good. It's, you don't play real hockey in that sense. Like, it's very much computer hockey. You start to understand a bit more about rules and things like that, and it's like every other game where I've got 2K, I've got Madden, and I've got, what is the hockey called? It's NHL, I think.
Yeah, NHL, yeah.
All three of those games are the reason that I understand the rules for
My God, that's so cool. Honestly, anything to take the pinch off of our Liverpool season, because we have got Champions League though. Let's not count ourselves out for that. Definitely.
I think the Champions League element's definitely exciting. I also just think, sorry, I've got a massive van just backing up right next to me. Right. It's also that I think City will slip at some point and make this a bit more interesting. Doesn't mean we're going to win it. I think Liverpool might push them a little bit further than you think.
I'd rather them win it than Chelsea, but that's a different conversation altogether.
I'd rather, actually. Oh, that's interesting. Why? No, I'd much rather Chelsea win it. I want the diversity in the league. I want to prove that City don't have a dynasty here, and I think in Liverpool and Chelsea breaking that is really important. If we'd have won it back-to-back years, I think then you can argue that's this Liverpool team are generational if they break the stranglehold that City have got on this league. But we didn't win it back-to-back. We won it once. We got the Champions League.
Here's my thinking behind this. If they win it again, then people are going to start complaining. Ratings will go down. Then they'll be forced to be able to change some of these rules to actually make it more equal. Because I know a lot of, definitely English supporters of football do not want any rule changes because they just see it as American. But the thing is that if you look at like what's happened over the last for many, many years, we've taken, be it squad numbers and breaks and all these types of things that we have, playoffs in the playoffs, championship, all of these things we've taken aboard, and actually the championship is actually really exciting towards the end because you don't know who's going up. So you need that, and not a playoff to win the whole Premier League, but you just need something to actually make it a bit more of a level playing ground. But
I feel like that's where the Champions League fills a massive competition hole for us, which I think is it's not diverse enough. But the Champions League for me still feels so special, and I don't understand why.
Anyone can win.
It's as not only that, but I always know I'm going to get a good game, and it feels very similar. It's the closest to me to the NFL playoffs that we're ever going to be able to get.
Honestly, Laurence, it's been such an amazing pleasure to be able to have you.
I'd always love to chat to you more. If I could come on more often, I'd love that.
Oh, bro, you've definitely got more space to be able to come on before the Super Bowl. We're going to see. Actually, we should actually revisit this to see who's 49ers Packers prediction comes.
You know what? I kind of want to come on and follow up on that with you. Just
bro,
I want to be able to rub that in your face.
You know what? We'll sort that out for you to come back, and we'll talk about that for sure. Laurence, where can people find you who've been living under a rock who don't know who you are?
There's plenty of people living under a rock if that's the case. There's you can find me on the True Geordie Twitch channel this weekend. I can't remember which game we're going to be covering actually. It might be a Chelsea game. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We do the Premier League, biggest Premier League game every weekend, or there and thereabouts. You can also find me at Lozcast on pretty much any platform. Well worth a look. I'm always talking NBA, NFL, Premier League, and I love chatting with people. So,
my bro, honestly, I appreciate you coming on. And guys, catch up more NFL content on Alternative Sport and Verge Magazine at vergemagazine.co.uk. But you know what? Let's hope that these predictions and mine and Laurence's lock of the week, we're going to see mano.
Your lock and my lock can't both come off. This is what you have to understand. It's either going to be your lock or my lock. I locked against your lock.
That's true. Sorry, you know what? Let's see whose lock comes true.
Exactly.
But until then, peace.